Hmm. Now, the
Dangerous.
moment the NBA one, I wanted to talk about which one you want.
Man,
Ew.
there's no
I
wrong
don't know.
answer.
I don't know why y'all sitting there huffing and puffing. This is really easy.
I have Tim Duncan personally.
Ah, mm-hmm.
I have Tim Duncan. Shaq's dominance, his offensive presence is great, but like I said, I really like players who do things on both sides of the court really well. And Tim Duncan, he can give me 25 while also being the best defender on the other side of the court. So that's why I choose Tim Duncan because I like him as a two-way player.
I agree. I like Tim Duncan more. I just passing, really good passers. I mean, I think Shaq, in my opinion, a little bit better in the transition. Duncan was better defensively. People knock Tim Duncan's bank shot to this day. I mean, hell, when the bank's always open, it's calling. And I use this bank shot still to this day when I play pickup basketball all the time. They get mad at me anytime whenever I use that bank shot. I'm like, I don't care. I'm still hitting that bank shot. But what I love about Tim Duncan, consistency. I think Tim Duncan, how he has longevity as well as Shaq, 19 years each of them. I
Mm-hmm.
love how the way Tim Duncan took care of himself later on in his career.
You talking about
Um,
longevity as far as like how long they were in the league or how long?
Overall, how long they've been in the league overall.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
just I just love Tim Duncan a little bit more because of the defense. I think he had the better career. I mean, just his presence, even though he's not like a vocal type of leader, he just leads by his own way. Watch the way how I practice, watch the way how I perform, watch the way I do things. I mean, he's great on and off the court. Of course, the accolades go along there. Casual, you talked about how great he was defensively, particularly in '03 and in '05. So that adds extra validation. You can make an argument Tim Duncan is top five. Casual, you have him top three,
Yeah, he's
right?
third. He's third. He's third for me all time.
Mm,
Um,
Mm,
I
mm.
just I feel like
I love
Tim
that.
Duncan. A lot of people like to praise LeBron James, for being one of the greatest floor raisers of all time. They like to praise Michael Jordan for being one of the greatest ceiling raisers of all time. But very few times do people talk about how Tim Duncan in 2003 having to lead a team that had Avery Johnson at the helm of it, had young Steven Jackson at the helm of it, a rookie Tony Parker at the helm of it. He had to lead that team with a rookie Tony Parker and a sophomore Mono Ginobili to the postseason. And in that postseason, he goes up against the Los Angeles Lakers with a prime Kobe. In some people's eyes, I would disagree, but in some people's eyes, a peak Kobe along with a person with a Shaquille O'Neal that's still in his prime. And he goes there and he averages 28 points on mad efficiency while also manning the exact defense that was designed to destroy the Los Angeles Lakers system. They blew up every single play that Shaq was a part of, in large part due to Tim Duncan's all-time great defense that year. Then they go up against the Dallas Mavericks, and we understand how elite that Dallas Mavericks team with Steve Nash and Dirk Nowitzki at the helm of it. And he was able to stop that offense. Then you end up going into the New Jersey Nets, and obviously we understand that it really wasn't that eventful between those two. But what I'm basically getting at is when it comes to Tim Duncan, a lot of people don't speak enough about how he before he was able to sit back and enjoy the glory or the fruits of his labor in Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili and even Kawhi Leonard in later years. Before he got to that point, Tim Duncan had to make his own way. In '99, when he was playing with David Robinson, do you realize that team really was not that impressive? Nobody had the San Antonio Spurs going to the championship, let alone winning it. Then you go to 2003. Nobody had them making it past the Lakers, and he did it in dominant fashion. Nobody had them going in 2005 to the finals because they thought that that was the year for the Phoenix Suns. He stopped that. And in 2007, obviously, we know that that's when his defensive prime sort of started to wind down. But nonetheless, every time you put him in a situation, he found a way to make the most of it, and it usually resulted in a championship. And for that, that's why he's third all time for me, ahead of Shaquille O'Neal.
All right. Champ.
Man, this is a very difficult one for me because I watched both of these stars, superstars, firsthand.
All
I
time
watched them
greats.
both firsthand, and I seen both of them in their prime. And for you have to say, I will say this: Tim Duncan was to the San Antonio Spurs what Tom Brady was to New England.
Mm.
It's safe to say that because without Tim Duncan, David Robinson doesn't get a ring. Without Tim Duncan, there is no 20-year run flat out just making the playoffs every single year. You knew you had a chance to win a championship every single year as long as Tim Duncan was on that team. So, and it's just unfortunately they didn't have an heir apparent for him at the end of his career to just they just couldn't make that next step in order to get him number six. And it's fair to say if he would have won number six during that time, it's safe to say we'd be having different conversations about top five. It's unfortunately that he's considered the best power forward of all time, the big fundamental, but yet people don't put him in top three, top five, or even sometimes top 10 conversation, which is kind of blasphemous when you really think about it. It's like, how can I be considered the best power forward of all time and led a team just like Tom Brady did for 20 plus years and not be considered up there as far as rankings is concerned. And people always want to give him credit for playing power forward. People don't give him credit for playing center. He played center as well. People don't want to give him credit for that. Sometimes he split out. But I mean, for you to beat some of the greatest, for you to be at the cornerstone of beating some of the greatest teams of all time, beating the Phoenix Suns, the 3-2-1 offense, beating, the Detroit Pistons, who held Shaq and Kobe to 60 points. Remember, they held Shaq and Kobe to 60 points.
Yep.
Right.
Beating the New York Knicks, beating the Miami Heat when they was damn near at their apex. Beating them. I mean, beating them bad too.
By a
Yep.
record margin in the finals.
Yes, by a record margin. I mean, beating them bad. Beating them so bad. They had a meme. They had a meme up there. They said beat him so bad he literally ran home. But I mean, for me personally, I'm not gonna be a biased sports commentator. Shaq was one of my favorite players of all time. But if I had to pick anybody, man, they have to be the big fundamental. Now, granted, San Antonio is the Duke of the NBA, and sometimes when I watch San Antonio, I'd rather watch paint dry. But at the end of the day, they win. So,
OG, why are they so dominant that it's boring?
yeah,
Why for 20 years, damn near, that Tim Duncan was in the league, they never missed the playoffs, and they were always in the conversation. And it wasn't because the roster that was there.
yeah.
It was because that man that played either the 4 or the 5 was manning that. And then another thing is, OG, how many teams was Shaquille O'Neal on that reports came out about him being a detrimental teammate?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm old enough to remember the Orlando squad and how that thing broke up. I'm old enough to remember,
The
Shaq,
Lakers.
Kobe, the Lakers. I watched that so closely because I'm a Laker fan, and me and my mom, we was watching it closely. My father couldn't wait to see us lose, but that's another story for another day. But us going through that three-peat and all of that drama going on between him and Kobe was crazy. Not to mention, it didn't stop there. People don't realize it didn't stop there. It really filtered over into Miami because he had problems with Pat Riley as well. So I mean,
Phoenix.
yeah, and Phoenix, because
LA,
He
not
had
just
problems in
also,
Phoenix.
yeah,
he
he
did.
had problems with Phoenix.
Shaq had the problem that Shaq had everywhere. And you just go back and read the articles. The problem that everybody had with Shaq is the fact that he did not care about his health. nearly as
I was gonna
much.
bring that up, casual.
Yeah, he cared about having fun more than he cared about his health. Like everybody just wanted him to stay in shape, just stay in shape, and you could be. Truth be told, Shaquille O'Neal should be in conversation as being the greatest of all time.
And that's what I was trying to say, Lewis, in this chat. I
Okay.
am not trying to say that Shaquille O'Neal is not great. I'm not trying, but I think he could have been even more. People
Hmm.
will look at it and say, "Well, he
So
was a
in a way,
perennial."
you guys feel like he underachieved with the level he was at.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely
Yes,
I
underachieved.
can't say he underachieved. I
No,
can
he
say
underachieved. That G.
I compare it. This is why I love Shaq because I was. This is why I love Shaq because I was just like him. Because the thing is this. Yeah, I can make all A's, but forget all that, man. I'm trying to have me some fun. I'll make a B and get on by. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win either way. I
Man,
mean,
if you're if you
I mean, how can
the
I lose? I mean,
OG OG,
if you
if
win a
Shaquille O'Neal,
championship, it's like I said. If I win a championship, okay, my goal is to win a championship. We won. Not
but
only did we
it's
won, we three-peated.
no,
So
but OG, do you think if he's in shape that they lose to the Detroit Pistons, even with Kobe malfunctioning? Do you think they still lose to they? Do you think they get swept by the Detroit Pistons if
they
he's in
lost four.
shape?
well,
They
they
won the
lost
series
four.
4-1.
The thing is this: they was going to him. They had to
Oh,
go to
gentleman
Shaq.
sweep. I'm sorry.
They had to go to Shaq every time because nobody else could get off a shot. I
Okay.
mean, even shot, even I mean, even Sasha, even it was so bad to the point they had to go to him in the corner at times because they was riding his PSP
I guess
No,
I guess
I'm
what
just
I'm
stretching. Go ahead.
because
yeah.
they had to because they was riding. If you go back and look at the tapes, their method was to ride the diesel. Diesel was getting the points in. They could get the points in to him. But the
Right.
thing is, you can only ride him so far without everybody around him because everybody else, they was locking those guys down. Even during that series, Shaq was damn near unstoppable. But the thing is, they can only ride him for so long because none of the players were around him. Not even Kobe was, was able to
But
get a
even if
shot
you
off.
but even if you give him an out for the Detroit Detroit series, when you fast forward and you look at him in '05 against the Detroit Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals. When you fast forward and because he wasn't available for that series because he was out of shape. He was dealing with back problems. If you can fast forward and you go to him in '06 when he was getting ran off the court, he literally became unplayable to where Dwayne Wade had to take on the helm of the entire offense and he had to put forth an all-time great performance, like series performance, just for Shaquille O'Neal not to get like chastised for the way he was playing because he was playing terrible that
Yeah.
series.
And they was fouling the crap out of him too. You got to think about that as well. He took a beating that series. They was beating him like a rented mule. So
Yeah, but what
But my
I'm
thing,
saying is he didn't take it. He didn't take the
take
game
it seriously.
serious.
And that's been the knock on Shaq. And I've spoken to journalists. Like I said, I told Chris Broussard, and like a shout out to Chris Broussard. Love his work on Fox Sports One with First Things First. He the year that he voted for Steve Nash for the MVP, I was making an argument that Shaq probably should have won it that year. He agreed with me that Shaq should have taken it seriously. Shaq should have gotten in better shape and better condition at that time. And when I look at Shaq, we should be having discussions. Is he the greatest center ever? And as far as centers goes, I have Kareem as the greatest center of all time. Where would y'all rank Shaq? Third, second? I mean, would y'all? I
Oh,
mean, y'all would
he's
some of
third.
y'all
He's
put
third. He's third.
He's
Hakeem
third. I
above
have
him?
him third.
I got Hakeem over Shaq.
to be
Yeah, I'm
honest
gonna
with
have
you,
Hakeem.
at his peak during those Laker years, you're not going to see a better domination than Shaq during that time.
Oh no.
Oh yeah,
I
no, for
mean,
sure.
that was amazing. I mean, you knew. I
Absolutely.
mean,
He should have won the
we
MVP unanimously in '99.
yeah, he should have. But the thing was, you know how reporters is. Everybody have their own vendettas. But my thing is, I always look at it like this: I didn't take it serious, and I still won. Imagine if I did.
And that
I
and
didn't take it
exactly.
serious, and I still won. We saw guys who didn't take it serious, but they didn't win. We saw Allen Iverson. We saw a lot of guys who didn't take practices serious and all that. They didn't win. But I didn't take it serious that I won. Imagine what I could have did if I really took it serious and I was a monster.
But OG, that's the disappointment. That's the underachieving part. You won 4 rings and you still underachieved because you could have won more if you didn't have your pride. If you would have put your pride to the side, like a Tim Duncan, if you would have took the game serious, like a Tim Duncan, if you would have actually valued your dominance and your longevity the same way Tim Duncan did, then you would be in these talks as the greatest player of all time. Forget just the best center of all time. You could have been the best player of all time. But
And I also
because he
think
didn't,
too with
his
Shaq,
longevity wasn't, his prime longevity was not long enough. His dominance was not long enough. And even in some of those series, his health issues came back to bite him in the ass.
right.
Yeah.
And I also think with Shaq, early on in his career, he could have been a better teammate, particularly with Kobe. And the other reason why Shaq ultimately was traded to Miami because of the weight issues, but also he wanted $100 million. Dr. Buss at that time was like, no, he was going to give that type of money to Kobe. And Kobe was dead serious about leaving LA in 04 to go to Chicago. He said he and Vanessa, they were looking at houses in Chicago. But his agent, Rob Pelinka, at the time said, well, Shaq requested a trade. And he was like, oh, well, there goes Chicago.
Palenka was his agent?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Rob Pelinka was his agent.
Yeah, Rob Pelinka not only was his agent, a lot of people don't realize Rob Pelinka was on that Fab Five team too, man. Rob Pelinka is rich with that. Rob Pelinka has rich basketball knowledge, bro.
Yeah.
Good to know. Good
Casual,
to know.
Casual, I agree with you, and I agree with you completely, Casual. As far as the underachieving part, Chill from Players' Choice. Shout outs to Chill Town. He even told Shaq he underachieved. He felt that Shaq should have done even more, and that's not to say that Shaquille O'Neal is not great. Please don't get us wrong. Casual and I are not saying that Shaquille wasn't great or didn't live up to being a great player. All we're saying is we felt like he could have done even more in his career had he prioritized his nutrition and fitness the way that Tim Duncan did.
Oh, do you remember? You remember the phrase that everybody said when we were younger? Hard work beat talent when talent fails to work hard.
Yeah, people. The reason why I used to love Shaq is people used to tell me that all the time.
Tim Duncan and Shaquille O'Neal. This Tim Duncan and Shaquille O'Neal situation. That's basically that phrase embodies. That's basically what this is.
Yeah, I used to love Shaq because, like I said, my parents used to.
No, he was fun. He funny.
Yeah. I used to, like I said, I didn't take that serious when I was young. I mean, sometimes I still don't. It's just like, okay.
Bullshit. You on everybody's podcast.
At the same time, I'm having fun with it. I mean,
having fun.
But in fairness to Champ, that's the greatness about Champ. I mean, Champ is a fun-loving, going guy.
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, my thing is, here's my thing. After I left the wars, I'm like this. Look, don't take life too serious. You're not gonna survive anyway. So I mean, don't take it too serious. It's just like have some fun with it, man. So